Hello and welcome to this UI tutorial on making a pause menu in Unreal Engine 4. And the first thing we've got to do is make a blueprint widget and calling it pause. Open that up, dragging in the component which is an image, changing its size to 500 by 650. Next thing we've got to do is we've got to change the color to blue and the opacity to 0.5 and make sure that's all centered on the screen. And we're going to add some text which is pause menu. Changing the size to 60 and making sure that's all nicely centered on the screen. Next thing we're going to add is a vertical box which will have 3 buttons in, and now we're going to be adding in 3 buttons by just dragging them on top of the vertical box, and this should all import nicely. So we've got to make the vertical box a little bit bigger to make sure all the buttons fit inside it, and now we're going to be adding a fill and then padding of 5 to make it nice and neat for all 3 buttons. Now just going to make sure they're all nice and centered. Make sure everything is looking neat on the screen. Next thing we're going to be adding is 3 text boxes, and they're just going to be the names of the buttons. Starting with the main menu, we'll just take the player back to the main menu when that's linked up. Next one we'll be adding is a settings button, which will allow a player to have a look at to see what settings they're using. And finally, we'll be using a resume button to allow the player to resume whatever level they are playing. So now we're going to be adding the codes for on clicked. So we're going to have on clicked and then quit game, which allows the player to quit the game, because we're not going to do the main menu at the minute. That's in the next video. And now the resume will just allow players to go from on clicked to resume the game. So for the first bit, we're going to have a remove from parent. After that, we're going to be having a create widget. We're just going to change the class to pause. And then we're going to add a set game paused. I'm not going to tick that because the game is on pause. And then show mouse cursor. Just remove context sensitivity. And then there's a mouse cursor there. From target, we're going to get a player controller to allow the game to control the player. And then compile and then close it down. Going into the blueprints, we're going to go into the third person character and we're going to add a P keyboard binding so we can have a key binding of P. From that, we're going to be adding a set game paused. Make sure that's all ticked. Out of that, we're going to have a create widget, which would be the pause class. Now just change the class into pause. Out of there, we're going to be adding a add to viewport and make sure the target is a return value. And out of that one, we're going to add a set show mouse cursor again. Make sure that's ticked. So you can see the mouse when we're using the pause menu. And then finally, we're going to be adding a get player controller to allow it to move around in the pause menu. So now we're just going to be adding in one final detail, making sure everything is nicely aligned in the center. Now we're going to add in one final detail to the pause menu, which will be a background blur. Make sure that is 1920 by 1080 on its size. And then we're going to make sure that's all centered in the corner. And then we're going to quickly just align that to 0, 0, and then put it as a attachment to the anchor to the full screen. And a blur strength of 25 and a Z order of -1 to make sure it's behind everything else. So compile that and close that down. And now we're going to check out, see if it works. So the resume button works perfectly fine. So now we're just going to check to see if the main menu button works, which is quit the game. Say it doesn't work. Yes, and the main menu button works. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.